Nwoja was led deep into the forest, past trees older than the village itself. At the heart of the woods, there was a clearing filled with light. Though there was no moon, the strangers' faces changed. They were no longer men but spirits. Their eyes glowed. Their feet never touched the ground. Hello guys, welcome to Moonlight Tales by Uju. Please subscribe to UJ Moonlight Tales channel, like and share for more interesting tales. Thank you. In the days when shadows spoke and the wind carried secrets from ear to ear, there lived a wise old man named Okono in the heart of Umuofia community. On nights when the moon sat high and round like a watchful eye, Okono could gather his grandchildren beneath the ancient Iroko tree. The crackle of the lights, the scent of the fresh palm oil in the air, and the laughter of the little ones filled the night. Then, with a knowing smile, he could begin. Listen well, my children. There was once a boy. His name was Nwoja. Brave, yes, bold as the morning sun. But even the strongest hearts do not always see the dangers waiting beyond the edge of the village. Okono paused, his eyes glittering like stars. At Nwoja's side was wise Nza. Not a warrior, not a giant, but a tiny ant, small yet bustling with wisdom older than the oldest hills. And Nza spoke only to those who had patience and listening ears. The children leaned closer, wide-eyed and silently listening to Okono. What dangers did Nwoja face? What secrets did the forest keep? Tonight, my children, you will hear it all. The title of my tale is The Perilous Adventure of Nwoja and the Wise Nze. Several years ago, in Umuofia community lived a certain husband and wife, Okorafor and Nnenna. Nnenna made the finest clay pots, while her husband Okorafor was a palm wine tapper. He climbs the tallest trees and knows how to make the sweetest wine. They were poor, but they had love, and that was enough for them. Their home was at the edge of the village, near the great Iroko tree. This couple had been married for several years, yet they had no children. One day, as they were sleeping in the night, an old woman appeared to Okorafor in the dream and gave him a gift item tied with several old pieces of cloth. She said to Okorafor, "My son, handle this with love and care. You shall never regret it." As he tried to open it, the woman disappeared. Behold, it was a very beautiful, exceptional flute. Then he woke up from the sleep. Before going out that morning, he told his wife the dream. They couldn't make out anything from the dream, so they went about their normal duty. Months later, Nnenna took in, and Okorafor became happy. He took care of Nnenna throughout the period of 9 months. Nnenna had been in labor for 2 days, and the women of the village feared she could not survive. But on the 3rd night, as the moon sat full in the sky, Nwoja entered the world, a quiet child. He did not cry at birth. Instead, the elders said, a soft breeze passed through the hut, and the sound of flute music filled the air. The elders of the community took it as a sign. They whispered among themselves, "He is a special child." He did not cry much as a baby, but when he did, his wails carried a rhythm as if he was already making music. From the time he could walk, Nwoja, who sits with his mother, learnt how to mold, and he used clay to mold a traditional oja, that is flute. That was the first thing he ever did. Nwoja loved music. He could sit under the tree with his small flute from bamboo tree, blowing through them until the sound became melodies. So from the bamboo trees, he carved out an oja, a special flute he enjoys to play at all times. As he grew, Nwoja became the village pride. His flute could make the saddest heart dance and the angriest man smile. Even the elders, who rarely showed emotion, nodded their heads when he played. He has a friend, his best friend, who is not a person, but an ant. Yes, an ant. He called it Nza. The tiny creature followed him everywhere, clawing his arm or hiding in his head. People laughed at Nwoja for talking to an ant, but he did not care. He said, "Nza listened better than any human being." One New Year festival, Nwoja was asked to entertain the king, his cabinet, and the villagers and the guests. Nwoja played his flute and everyone danced. Days later, strange things began to happen in the village. One evening, a woman who had been sick for many moons was seen walking, her face bright with life, after listening to Nwoja's flute. Another time, the village barren land, long caused by drought, received rain when Nwoja played a melody that carried like the whispers of the gods. Nwoja brought joy and happiness into Umuofia community. One day, a group of warriors from the neighboring village arrived, their faces hard, their weapons sharp. They demanded a tribute of young boys to serve their king. Fear gripped our hearts, for we knew resistance could mean bloodshed. But then Nwoja stepped forward, his flute in his hand. He played. Nwoja played for the warriors. The warriors froze, their eyes wide. Some fell to their knees, trembling. A great wide wind rose, swinging dust and leaves into the air. When the music stopped, the warriors turned without a word and left, their weapons forgotten on the ground. No one ever dared to trouble Umuofia community again. From that day, Nwoja was no longer just a flute boy. He was something more. His music carried power. Some say it could heal. Some say it could summon rain. But one thing was certain. Whenever he played, the world listened. The nature pays attention. One day, something strange happened. On the day that the king celebrated his Ofala festival, it was a great one. Strangers arrived in the village. They wore bright clothes and danced in a way no one had ever seen before. Their leader, a tall man with red beards around his neck, heard Nwoja's flute and smiled. "Come, my man," the man said. "Your music is special. There is a place where spirits dance all night. They will love your flutes. But Nza the little ant saw everything. After it, after it crawled with his friend unseen. Nwoja, young and curious and adventurous, decided to follow them. The villagers were too busy with the feast to notice him leave. Nwoja was led deep into the forest, past trees older than the village itself. At the heart of the woods, there was a clearing filled with light, though there was no moon. The strangers' faces changed. They were no longer men but spirits. Their eyes glowed. Their feet were never touched the ground. "Play for us," they said. Nwoja played. His flute sang like the wind, like the river, like the heartbeat of the earth. The spirit danced faster and faster, but as he played, his body became weak. Nwoja was afraid, but he continued playing. His fingers felt heavy. His eyelids dropped. The spirits clapped. "Play forever," they whispered. "Stay with us." Nwoja agreed. With fear, he entertained them for 2 nights that he spent there. But Nza, the tiny ant, had seen enough. He overheard one of the spirits discussing with another spirit that after the 3rd night that Nwoja will become part of them and that he will not be able to go back to the land of the living. Meanwhile, back home, Nwoja's mom refused to be consoled. She cries every night and sings for Nwoja's return. She then sings, "Nwoja, Nwoja nwa mo, ana m akpọ. Nwoja, Nwoja nna m, nwa mo, ana m akpọ. Nne gị na-akpọ gị oku. Ana m akpọ. Nna gị na-akpọ gị oku. Ana m akpọ. Nne gị siri gị bịa rie ihe. Ana m akpọ. Nne gị siri gị bịa rie ihe. Ana m akpọ. Ọ sị gị bịa gwuba ọja. Ana m akpọ. Ọ sị gị bịa gwuba ọja. Ana m akpọ." Nza crawled into Nwoja's ear and bit Nwoja hard. He held, dropping his flute. In that moment, he saw the spirits for what they were. Shadows, empty and hungry. Fear gripped him. Nza then whispered to his ear that when the spirits go to sleep, they will run back to the village. Nza also told him what he had heard from the spirits' discussion. Nwoja then agreed. After some time, the spirits decided to go and rest. Nza then shouted, "Nwoja, run!" Nwoja ran as fast as he could with Nza by his left shoulder. Nza, being clever, whispered into the wind, calling the Iroko, the great tree, head and sent its roots. Twisting through the earth, the roots rose, blocking the spirit's path. Nwoja dashed through the last gap and found itself in the village. The morning sun warmed his face. The villagers found him at the edge of the forest, flute still in his hand. He told them everything, but when they looked, the clearing was gone. Only the trees stood, silent and watching. Nwoja reunited with his mother and promised to be careful next time. And he never stopped thanking Nza, his tiny friend, for saving his life. Those strangers never visited the community again. The big tree has blocked the boundary. Okono paused and smiled. "My children, I must retire to bed and stretch my bones now," he said. Then, pointing at the children, he nodded, "Have a wonderful night rest." The children then made their ways to their parents' huts. Dear lovely viewers and friends, this is the end of my story. The tale shows that gifts, when nurtured, can bring transformation and protection. True bravery lies in using one's ability for the good of others. Please remember to hit the notification bell for more interesting tales. Always share and like my stories. Your opinions are welcome on the comment section. Thanks for watching. See you again on my next tale. Bye for now.